Hi guys, today we're going to learn how to create this super cute Huey of the Night tutorial, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is start working on Huey himself. Go ahead and take a ball of brown fondant, approximately 1.5 inches in diameter, and roll it into an egg shape. Once you have the shape you want, you can go ahead and put your ball on your work surface and flatten it down a little bit. Then go ahead and take your large ball tool and create 2 eye sockets for your eyes. You want them to be pretty big. These aren't going to be the size of your eyeballs, this is just the socket. Next we're going to go ahead and use our thumbs and forefingers to soften around the eye sockets and also create your nose and chin. Use your thumb and your forefingers to push your fondant up in the center of your fondant ball. This is going to be the platform that your nose piece will sit on. You can see that I'm smoothing, I'm not pulling or pushing my fondant really hard. This is how you don't rip your fondant. And once you're satisfied with your snout protrusion, you want it to be about 1/8 of an inch off the rest of the face. You're going to go ahead and use your thumbs to create the chin. You do this just by pushing your thumbs together on your fondant. You just want a little bit of fondant in between your thumbs. You don't want a huge chin, you just want a little bit. Then go ahead and use your Dresden tool to create your smile. You want to go from the middle of one eye socket all the way to the middle of the other. And just go ahead and use your Dresden to smooth the inside of the mouth. You don't want any cracked fondant on the face especially. And then go ahead and use the large end of your Dresden tool to pull your fondant down. This is going to create the inside of the mouth. Once you're satisfied with the mouth, you're going to go ahead and take your Dresden tool and just poke little holes at the end of your mouth on both sides. Those little holes are just there to really amp up the cuteness factor of the bat. And once you're satisfied with your mouth, go ahead and smooth out any imperfections you may have caused when you were modeling. Now we're going to use our small ball tool to create the eye sockets. And you'll notice that I like to put the inner eye socket a little bit off center from the outside eye socket. That just adds to the cuteness factor as well. And go ahead and go back with your Dresden tool and smooth out anything that you may have smudged up or moved around while you were using your ball tool to create your eye sockets. And then make sure that your chin does have definition just by using your thumbs to smooth the fondant. Once you're satisfied with your head, you can go ahead and move it off of your work surface and onto a piece of parchment paper. Next, use a pointed sugar shaper to create holes for the ears. I like to put them almost directly above the eye sockets. You'll also notice that I use my sugar shaper at an angle instead of going straight in, and that's because the ears are not going to be sticking straight up. Now we're going to go ahead and start working on the body, and for that you're going to need a piece of fondant, about a 1 inch in diameter size ball. So go ahead and take that ball and you're actually going to roll it into a teardrop shape. And once you have that teardrop shape, you're going to go ahead and put it on your work surface and you're just going to smash it down with your hand. Then go ahead and pick up your body piece to make sure that it's the correct proportion. You want it to be about the same length as the width of your head. Now we're going to go ahead and create the chest fur. For this piece you're going to want to take your brown fondant and you're going to want to roll a very thick and stout tapered log. Then you're going to go ahead and take those 2 points and fold them up, and then you're going to smash your little triangle shape down with your hand. Go ahead and make sure that the point of your little triangle that you've just made is actually kind of pointy, and then go ahead and cut off any excess. You want to make sure that this piece is kind of bulky because the more dimension you have on this, the more chest fur your piece will have. Then go ahead and lay it down on top of your body piece and tear off any excess while folding the rest behind. Try not to worry too much about what the back of this will look like because once you put the wings on and then also put the bat in front of the moon, you won't even see the back. Use your fingers to smooth your chest fur piece into your body piece and make sure that it still looks proportional. As you can see, I'm not going to be putting my body directly straight down underneath the head. It's going to go off to the right at an angle. So for that, you're going to need to make sure that you have a little platform area that your head is going to be able to sit. Try not to smudge your character's head up too much while you're doing this, but a little bit is inevitable. Just try to fix it as best you can. Then go ahead and use your fingers and your thumbs to create a very small little indent, and that is actually where your chin is going to sit. Once you have the body in the position that you want it to be in, it's time to move on to the wings. To create the wings, we're going to take a large piece of brown fondant and we're going to roll it out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. You want your piece of fondant to be at least 3 inches by 7 inches. Once your piece of fondant is large enough, you can go ahead and transfer it to your parchment paper. Your head and your body should be dry enough for you to move off of it for just a few minutes. Next, you're going to take your X-Acto and you're going to carve a half circle in the top of your piece. This is going to create the curve of the wings at the top. Go ahead and move your body onto your wings. You want the head to be centered in your half circle and you want to make sure that it is going to stick, so you may or may not need Tyler's glue for this step. Cut the wings using an X-Acto knife, making sure that the wings are curved outward. You want about 2 inches of wing on both sides. Then use your fingers to create a point at the top of your wing. Do this on both sides. If you feel like your wings are uneven, go ahead and trim them accordingly using your X-Acto blade. Use your X-Acto blade to cut the bottom half of the wings by cutting 2 half circles. You want to make sure that the wing part that is closest to the body is thinner than the outside part. Repeat the process on both sides. Then use your X-Acto blade to cut off the excess fondant. Before going further, make sure that your wings are in the correct position that you want them to be in. Use your thumb and forefingers to make sure that all of the wingtips are pointy. You also want to make sure that you maintain the curve of the wing, and you can do that with your fingers as well. Create veins on the wings by using the small end of your Dresden tool and drawing it from the top point of the wing to all 3 bottom points of the wing. Repeat the process on both sides. Remember that it is okay to adjust your wings. If they don't look even, just go ahead and cut a little bit off. Create eyeballs by using 2 equal-sized pieces of black fondant. Your eyeballs should fit into your small eye sockets that you made. Now we're going to texturize the chest fur. I use a very small ball tool to do this, but you can also use a toothpick or a skewer. You're basically just going to take your tool and go back and forth, picking at your fondant. Make sure that when you're doing this step, you go all the way to the back of the wing and all the way up to the base of the head. You'd want to make sure that you don't see any smooth sections for this area. One thing to keep in mind when you're making this figurine is that the ears are pretty big, so you want to make sure that you do have at least 1.5 inches of space above its head. Create the nose by rolling a 1/4 inch size ball into a teardrop shape. Then flatten the teardrop on your work surface. Make sure that the teardrop itself is pretty stout. You don't want it to be very long and skinny because it will look awkward on your bat's face. You want it to perfectly cover up the little protrusion that you created earlier on the face. Use an X-Acto knife to cut off a little piece of the bottom of your nose. That will give it a nice little flat edge, so when you go ahead and smooth it out with your Dresden tool, it does not look awkward and you don't end up with too much fondant on the face. Once you have your nose where you want it, use the large end of your Dresden tool to smooth the fondant down onto the face. You don't want to take a lot of fondant off the nose, just enough to make sure that it sticks onto the rest of your face. Make sure that if you push your mouth out of shape, that you use your Dresden tool to push your mouth back up. Use a small ball tool and the small end of the Dresden tool to create the nostrils. I like to create the small circles and then use my Dresden to create the thinner sections by dragging it up very slowly with not too much pressure. Use the thick end of the Dresden tool to smooth out your nostrils on the inside. To create the ears, roll out a log of brown fondant approximately 1/2 inch thick. Then cut it in half. You want your sections to be approximately 1.5 inches. Roll each section into a ball and then into a long teardrop. Then use your rolling pin to flatten out the ear. You want your ear to be at least the height of your body and about 1/16 of an inch thick. Once you're satisfied with the size of your ear, use a small ball tool to create ridges on the inside. Pick up the ear and fold the bottom quarter of the ear in half. This is going to be the section that you roll in between your fingers and stick into the hole you created in the top of the head earlier on. Then use your fingers and your thumb to create a small ridge along the outside of the entire ear. If your fondant is sticky, you may not need Tylos glue for this step, but if you do use it, make sure that you do not use too much. Position the ear how you want it. Something that I like to do to give my figurines a little bit more character is to cut little notches out of their ears. That just gives them a little bit more of a scrappy appearance. Another thing that I like to do with some of my figurines is to offset the ears so that one is sticking up straight and one is going off to the side. I do this because I think it actually looks pretty cute. It's a little bit of an homage to my dogs who do the same thing, and I just find it adorable. Create the arms by rolling out a piece of brown fondant approximately 3/16 of an inch wide. Then cut the log in half. You want to make sure that both halves are going to be long enough to be an arm. Taper one end of your arm. That's going to be the hook that sticks off the edge of your wing. Then roll your log in between your fingers and your work surface to make sure that it's all an even thickness. At the tapered end of your arm, fold it over at about 1/4 of an inch at about 90 degrees. This is going to be the hook that sits off the edge of your wing. You want to make sure that the tip of your wing matches up with the point of your 90-degree angle for your hook. The base of your arm should match up into the crease of your head and your body. Use your Dresden tool to make sure that it fits into the right spot, and use Tylos glue to make sure that it stays in place. Repeat the process on both sides. Create the feet by rolling out a log of brown fondant. You want the log to be approximately 1/16 of an inch thick. Then you're going to cut off 6 equal section pieces. You want each section to be approximately 3/16 of an inch. Note that I'm also rounding each edge before I'm cutting it off. This is because those are going to be the ends of my toes and I don't want them to have an awkward edge. Form each foot by taking 3 of your cut sections and pushing them all together at one end. Then place them at the bottom of your body. You may or may not need Tylose glue for this step, but if you do use it, make sure you do not use too much. Use your Dresden tool to make sure that your toes are firmly attached onto your body. Next, carefully insert a Tylose covered skewer into your bat figurine. You want to make sure that you are going to be able to go straight through the body and through the head. Create a gleam in Huey's eye by rolling out small white fondant balls, 1 large and 1 small for each eye. Place them in the top right-hand corner. If your fondant is not sticky enough, you may need Tylose glue. Use the same white fondant to form 2 small teeth. Use the small end of your Dresden tool to help you place the teeth into the mouth. Now it's time to bring out all of Huey's adorable little features. So I like to use a combination of powdered food colors from the Sugar Art, CK Products, and Crystal Colors. And you can see I'm using a dark purple, a dark burgundy, a few different browns, and also a pink. So some of the places that you should dust is inside the ears. You want to make sure that you get all the little ear crevices that you made. You want to dust inside the nostrils, inside the mouth. You want to get those wing veins that you created, and then you also want to darken up the chest fur. Now you can color however you want. This is just how I wanted mine to be colored. But you just want to make sure that you include all your darker tones and areas that would be normally shaded or dark. Now once you have all your shading done, you're going to go ahead and add a little bit of fur above the ears, and for that you're just going to roll out a tiny log, then use your sugar shaper to really smooth it on there. And just like the chest hair, you're going to use your small ball tool or a toothpick or skewer to pick out that hair. Once you're satisfied with your ear fur, you can go back and do a few more finishing touches with your dust. And that's how you create Huey. Now let's move on to the moon. To create the moon, you're going to want to roll out a piece of fondant to be approximately 1/4 of an inch thick. Use a 5-inch circle cutter to cut out your moon. Remove the fondant from the cutter and soften the edges of the moon using your fingers. Make sure to turn the moon over and get the other side as well. Once you have all your edges smoothed, put your cutter back over your fondant piece. Then use your different sized ball tools to create holes all over the top of your moon. Remove the fondant mousse from the cutter. Then use a Tylose covered skewer and insert it into the bottom of the moon. Once your skewer has been inserted, use your ball tool to create a few small half circles around the edge of your moon. This will give your moon a little bit more dimension and make it look slightly more 3D. Dust the inside of each circle with a dark yellow powdered color. Once you've finished dusting, set your moon aside to dry. Now let's move on to the cake. I wanted the inside of my cake to be just as Halloween-y as the outside of my cake, so I chose to do a pumpkin flavored cake with vanilla buttercream frosting, but my vanilla buttercream is going to be orange and purple checkered. For this cake, you'll need 5 layers. Take 4 layers of cake and spread them out in front of you. Fill 2 piping bags, one with orange buttercream and one with purple buttercream. You want 2 of your layers to have an orange buttercream ring on the outside, and 2 of your layers to have a purple buttercream ring on the outside. Make sure that while you're piping, you maintain an even pressure because you want to make sure that all of your different colors are as close in size as possible to the next. Once you finish piping your buttercream, go ahead and stack your layers. Take your 5th layer and place it on top. Then place your cake in the fridge to set up. Now that your cake has chilled in the fridge, go ahead and cover your cake in black buttercream. You want the buttercream to be as smooth as you can get it. Once you're done frosting your cake, place it back in the refrigerator to chill. To create a Starry Night effect, use a wide bristled paintbrush covered in edible silver paint and tap it against your finger. You want to make sure that you get a variety of sizes. Next, take a piece of gray fondant and wrap it around the cake. Cut off the excess with an X-Acto or paring knife. Then use hot glue to attach a ribbon around the edge. Now it's time to add the figurines into the top of the cake. As you can see, I've covered the skewers of my figurines in a black drinking straw. This is to avoid getting wooden splinters in my cake. You're going to want to place your moon in the back 3/4 of the cake, and you want to place Huey basically in the center. Then you're going to take some Pearl Satinized Fondant. This is fondant that already has mica powder in it, so you don't need to dust it. It already looks very shiny and pretty. You're going to roll it out pretty thin, about 1/16 of an inch thick. And then you're going to go ahead and use your star punch cutters and put stars of different sizes all over your cake. And that's it, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial because I certainly enjoyed making it. Thank you so much for watching.